So, you've done it. You clicked a button, applied some YAML, and bam, your application is officially part of a service mesh. But have you ever stopped to think about what really happens inside your Kubernetes pods when that Istio sidecar moves in? Let's get into it, because the changes go way deeper than you might think. And you really have to ask yourself this question. Because under the hood of all that amazing traffic management and security, there's a fundamental change happening. It's a total transformation that messes with your startup times, your resource consumption, and yeah, even the health of your application itself. To really get a handle on this, we've got to start with the before picture. Let's take a look at a good old standard Kubernetes pod, just living its best life, before the mesh came to town. As you know, the pod is our basic building block in Kubernetes. For most of us, most of the time, it's a pretty simple deal. It's just a little wrapper holding one thing, and one thing only, our application container. It's a peaceful, self-contained little world. Your app starts up, it does its own networking, and it uses the CPU and memory you gave it. Simple, clean, and totally predictable. But, yeah, that's all about to change. The moment you enable Istio, you're not just adding a feature. You're inviting a brand new and very influential house guest into every single one of your pods. This is what we call the sidecar transformation. And honestly, this is the absolute best way to think about it. This new container, the Istio proxy, it's basically a bodyguard. It stands right next to your application, and its job is to intercept every single packet coming in or going out. It handles all the messy security and networking stuff so your app doesn't have to. But here's the thing. This bodyguard has its own needs, and it has its own rules. Now check this out, because this is where it gets really interesting. You'd think you're just getting one extra container, right? Nope, you actually get two. Your simple one-container pod is automatically transformed into a pod that has an Istio init container and an Istio proxy container. All of a sudden, your app isn't alone anymore. And this new bodyguard, well, it has a very strict house rule. It always wakes up first. This creates a brand new, non-negotiable startup sequence inside your pod. So here's the crucial part. Your application now starts dead last. First up, that little Istio init container runs. Its only job is to rejigger the networking rules, the IP tables, to make sure all traffic is forced through the bodyguard. Once it's done, it exits. Second, the bodyguard, itself, Istio proxy, fires up and gets ready for duty. And only then, once the proxy is fully initialized, can your application container finally start. This new packing order has a really direct impact, a startup delay. An app that used to pop right up in 5 seconds might now take 15. So, what does that do to your health checks? It means this. If your readiness probe still has an initial delay of just 5 seconds, Kubernetes is going to start poking your app before the sidecar is even ready to handle the traffic. The probe fails, Kubernetes thinks your pod is broken, and it kills it. Congratulations, you're now in a crash loop, all because you didn't give the bodyguard enough time to get its boots on. Okay, so there's the startup delay. But the other thing about this bodyguard is that it needs to eat. It consumes CPU and memory, and this is a hidden cost that can cause some serious drama if you're not paying attention. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. A pod that was cruising along just fine with half a CPU core and 512 megs of RAM now needs a whole lot more. That Istio proxy isn't free. It's an active process that's always running. The total resource footprint of your pod is just bigger now, permanently. And this quote right here, this is a classic gotcha. Imagine your horizontal pod autoscaler is set to scale up when CPU hits 60%. Before Istio, your app might have been idling at 40%. But now, you add the sidecar's constant CPU hum, and suddenly your pod is idling at 65%. Your HPA goes nuts, starts spinning up new replicas, and you're staring at your cloud bill wondering what happened. It was the bodyguard's base salary. So we know the bodyguard is hungry, but what if it doesn't get fed? What happens if your pod's resource limits are just too tight and the sidecar starts to starve? Well, this is where things can go from bad to catastrophic, real fast. This is the downward spiral. The sidecar gets starved of CPU or memory, and it becomes sluggish, unresponsive. Since it controls all the networking, your pod's health checks start to time out and fail. Kubernetes sees these failures and does its job. It marks the pod as unhealthy and yanks it out of the load balancer. And here's the craziest part. Your actual application container could be inside, running perfectly, totally healthy. But it doesn't matter. It's now completely isolated from the world. A failing bodyguard has taken a healthy client completely offline. Okay, that sounds pretty scary, I know. But the good news is, all of this is totally manageable. You just need a solid pre-flight checklist to make sure you tame this sidecar before you let it loose on your critical applications. Here it is, number 1. Recalculate your resources. Do the math and add the sidecar's needs to your pod's total requests and limits. Number 2. Tune those health probes. Give them a much longer initial delay seconds to let the bodyguard get ready. Number 3. Check your auto-scaling triggers. Tweak your HPA so it understands the new normal for resource usage. And finally, number 4, a simple one, but so crucial, explicitly declare all your container ports. It helps Istio do its job right and avoid any weird conflicts. The Istio sidecar is incredibly powerful, there's no doubt about it. But it's not magic, and it is definitely not free. It asks for more resources, it changes how your pods start up, and it demands that you pay close attention to your configuration. So the real question is, now that you know the true cost of letting this new house guest move in, how does that change the way you'll plan your own service mesh rollout?